Hi student, today we are going to see figure of speech. First figure of speech, alliteration. When in a sentence, sound of any letter which comes in the beginning of the word is repeated, then there is use of alliteration. एखाद्या वाक्यात समान आवाजाचे मुळाक्षर जर वेगवेगळ्या शब्दात सुरुवातीला पुन्हा पुन्हा आलेले असतील तर तेथे alliteration figure of speech असते. Let us see example. Raju brings himself to the bank of a buy. In that sentence, BB letter is repeated, so there is figure of speech alliteration. Second, he holds his head high. In that sentence, HH letter is repeated at the beginning of each word, so there is the figure of speech alliteration. काकूने काकाचे कामाचे कागद कात्रीने कापून काढले. In that sentence, ka this letter is repeated at the beginning of each word, so there is the alliteration figure of speech. Second figure of speech, repetition. When in a sentence same words are repeated, then there is use of repetition figure of speech. एखाद्या वाक्यात जर एखादा शब्द पुन्हा पुन्हा आलेला असेल तर तेथे रिपिटेशन फिगर ऑफ स्पीच असते. लेट अस सी एक्झाम्पल. रेन रेन गो अवे. In that sentence, rain, this whole word is repeated, so there is the repetition figure of speech. Alone, alone, all alone. In that sentence, alone, this whole word is repeated, so there is the repetition figure of speech. Deva hu deva, Ganpati deva. In that sentence, deva, this word is repeated, so there is the repetition figure of speech. There is the little difference between alliteration figure of speech and repetition. In alliteration, only one letter is repeated at the beginning of each words or various words, and in the repetitions the whole word is repeated, so there is the little difference between alliteration and repetition. Then third, personification figure of speech. When in a sentence, lifeless, inanimate objects, animals, birds, plants, flowers, etc. are given the human qualities or they are described as human beings, then there is use of personification figure of speech. एखाद्या वाक्यात जर निर्जीव वस्तू मानवेतर प्राणी, वनस्पती, पक्षी, फूल इत्यादींना मानवी गुण दिलेले असतात किंवा त्यांना मानवासारखे वागवताना दाखवलेले असते तेव्हा तेथे पर्सोनिफिकेशन फिगर ऑफ स्पीच असते. लेट अस सी एक्झाम्पल. The waves are singing a song. In that sentence, waves, this is inanimate things, the object, and the singing, this is the quality of human beings to show to these qualities given to the inanimate things, waves, so there is the personification figure of speech. Stars danced in the sky. In that sentence, stars, this is the inanimate things, and the qualities, human quality, dance is given to stars, so there is the personification figure of speech. ती पहा सर्वात मागे मान उंचावून पाहणारी टेकडी, तिच्या पायाजवळून उजव्या उड्या मारत जाणारा, गात जाणारा तो अवकळ झरा. In that sentence also there is the tekdi or hill, this is the inanimate things, and man unsaun, this is the human qualities given to the hill or tekdi, so there is the personification figure of speech. Next figure of speech, simile. When in a sentence a direct comparison is made between two objects of different kinds which have at least one point in common, showing using like or as, then there is use of simile figure of speech. एखाद्या वाक्यात जर दोन वस्तू, व्यक्ती, प्राणी, गुणवैशिष्ट्ये, किंमत, महत्त्व इत्यादींची प्रत्यक्षरित्या तुलना केलेली असते आणि त्यामधील एकमेव साम्य दाखवण्यासाठी लाईक किंवा ॲज यांचा उपयोग केलेला असतो तेव्हा तेथे सिमिली ही फिगर ऑफ स्पीच असते. लेट अस सी एक्झाम्पल्स. काश्मीर इज लाईक अ हेवन ऑफ इंडिया. हिअर इज द comparison between Kashmir and heaven, so there is the one quality in Kashmir equal as heaven, so there is the figure of speech simile. The road lies like the shaped carpet. Here is also like word shows the simile figure of speech. शिवाजी महाराज सिंहासारखे होते. This is सिंहासारखे. These word shows the simile figure of speech. Fifth figure of speech metaphor. When an indirect comparison is made in between two objects of different kinds which have at least one point in common, then there is use of metaphor. There is no use of words like and as. एखाद्या वाक्यात जर दोन वस्तू, व्यक्ती, प्राणी, गुणवैशिष्ट्ये, किंमत, महत्त्व इत्यादींची अप्रत्यक्षरित्या तुलना दाखवण्यासाठी लाईक किंवा ॲज यांचा उपयोग केलेला नसतो तेव्हा तेथे मेटाफर फिगर ऑफ स्पीच असते. एक्झाम्पल, सीड्स ऑफ मूनलाईट. हिअर इज डिरेक्ट कम्पॅरिझन्स विथ द मूनलाईट ऑफ सीड्स, सो देर इज द figure of speech metaphor. The camel is the sheep of the desert. Here is the direct comparison between camel and sheep. So there is the metaphor figure of speech. शिवाजी महाराज सिंह होते. Here is the direct comparison between Shivaji Maharaj and lion. So there is the metaphor figure of speech. There is the difference between simile and metaphor. In simile there is used like and as these words, and in metaphor there is not used like and as words. Sixth figure of speech, onomatopoeia. When in a sentence a word is self-expresses sound, then there is use of onomatopoeia. जर दिलेल्या वाक्यात आवाजदर्शक शब्द वापरलेले असतील तर तेथे onomatopoeia figure of speech असते. Let us see example. The dog's boo-boo is creating noise. In that sentence, boo-boo, this is the expresses sound, so sound of the dog, so there is onomatopoeia, this figure of speech. The twittering of tiny birds. In that sentence, twittering, this is the sound of tiny birds or birds, so there is the onomatopoeia, this figure of speech. Zuku zuku zuku, again a gari. In that sentence, zuku, this word is the sound of the again gari, so there is the onomatopoeia, this figure of speech. Seventh figure of speech, inversion. When in a sentence words are not in a correct prose order, yes plus verb plus object, subject plus verb plus object, then there is use of inversion. If in the sentence there is not the sentence structure subject verb object, then there is the inversion figure of speech. जर दिलेल्या वाक्यात कर्ता क्रियापद कर्म अशी रचना न देता ती यमक जुळवण्यासाठी किंवा अन्य कारणासाठी वेगळी दिलेली असते तेव्हा तेथे इन्व्हर्जन फिगर ऑफ स्पीच असते. लेट अस सी एक्झाम्पल. But don't you quite. In that sentence there is the inversion. If there is the according to the structure of the sentence, this sentence, then you don't don't quite, but don't you quite. In that sentence the structures of the sentence should be but you don't quite, but here is given but don't you quite. The according the sentence structure but you don't quite, the sentence structure should be like that, but here is given for the rhyming words but don't you quite. In vain is the world play. Here is also the world play is in vain, the sentence structure should be like that, but in vain is the world play, here is given. Then हम आपके है कौन, here is also हम आपके कौन है, this sentence structure should be, but here has given the for the effect the sentence structure has changed, so here is the inversion figure of speech. Then hyperbole. When in a sentence a statement is made emphatic by overstatements or exaggeration, then there is use of hyperbole figure of speech. जर दिलेल्या वाक्यात अतिशयोक्ती केलेली असेल तर तेथे हायपरबल दिस फिगर ऑफ स्पीच असते. एक्झाम्पल, लेट अस से एक्झाम्पल. सी wept a basket full of tears. Here in that sentence, she cry or wept how many tears? Basketful tears. So here is the hyperbole figure of speech. Here has used exaggerations. So overstatements are used. So here is the hyperbole figure of speech. I will bring for you the stars and moon if you wish. Here is also exaggeration used. This is not possible to bring stars and moons. So here is used exaggeration or overstatement. So here is the hyperbole figure of speech. दमडीचे तेल आणले, त्यात सासूबाईंची अंघोळ झाली, उरलेले तेल सांडले, ते वेसीपर्यंत वाहून गेले, त्यात उंट पोहून गेला. In this sentence also there is the hyperbole figure of speech. Here as used overstatements or exaggerations. Ninth one, antithesis. Figure of speech antithesis. When in a sentence the opposite words or ideas are used side by side, then there is use of antithesis figure of speech. जर वाक्यात विरुद्ध अर्थाचे शब्द किंवा कल्पना वापरलेले असतील तर तेथे अँथिथेसिस फिगर ऑफ स्पीच असते. एक्झाम्पल, ही वॉन्ट्स टू लाईट द डार्क रूम. हिअर इन दॅट सेंटेन्स, here is used light and dark, these opposite things in one sentence, so there is the antithesis figure of speech. It may be near when it seems afar. Near and afar, these are the opposite words are used in the one sentence, so there is the antithesis figure of speech. उघडलेली खिडकी त्याने बंद केली. Here is उघडलेली आणि बंद केली. These words are used in the one sentence, so there is the antithesis figure of speech. 10th one, climax figure of speech. When in a sentence, ideas, thoughts, values, importance, qualities, etc. are arranged in ascending orders, then there is use of climax. जर दिलेल्या वाक्यात कल्पना, विचार, किंमत, महत्त्व, गुणवैशिष्ट्ये इत्यादी चढत्या क्रमाने दिलेले असतील तर तेथे क्लायमॅक्स असते. That means in climax, the ideas, thoughts or values are given in the or the ascending order, not given in descending order. So there is the climax, this figure of speech. Example, she came, she saw, she conquered. Here is she came, then saw, conquered. These are the words arranged in ascending order. So there is the climax, this figure of speech. They enjoys liquor with dance and drums. Here they enjoys liquor with dance and drum. These words are arranged with the ascending order. So there is the climax figure of speech. ती आली, तिने पाहिले and तिने जिंकून घेतले. There is also, these words are used in ascending order, so there is the climax, this figure of speech. 11th, anticlimax. When in a sentence ideas are presented in a descending order, then there is use of anticlimax. जर दिलेल्या वाक्यात कल्पना, विचार, किंमत, महत्त्व, गुणवैशिष्ट्ये इत्यादी उतरत्या क्रमाने दिलेले असतील तर तेथे अँटीक्लायमॅक्स फिगर ऑफ स्पीच असते. एक्झाम्पल, soldier fights for glory and sealing us day. Here is, these words are used in descending order, so there is the anticlimax figure of speech. He swears before sun, moon and leaves. Sun, moon and leaves, these words are used in descending order, so there is the anticlimax figure of speech. जिथे फुले वेचली तिथे गोवऱ्या वेचण्याची वेळ आली. Here is also anticlimax figure of speech. Remaining figure of speech we will see in next video. Thank you.